I didn't expect to be starting over at 58. Not like this. I thought divorce was about emotions, loneliness, learning to sleep alone again. I didn't realize it would redraw my entire future in numbers. One signature, one account, gone. 340,000 became 170 overnight. Half of everything I'd quietly built for decades, just gone. I was 58 with 7 years until retirement, and suddenly half the plan didn't exist anymore. I had to build something new. So I made some decisions in 4 months that stabilized everything. Let me walk you through exactly what I did.
I'm 58 years old, and 6 months ago, I signed divorce papers that cut my retirement savings exactly in half. My name is Margaret Sullivan, and after 31 years of marriage, I watched $340,000 become $170,000 with a judge's signature. I had a choice in that moment. I could fall apart or I could find my footing. Over the next 4 months, I made 10 specific decisions that completely stabilized my financial future. And if you're going through something similar, or you're watching this because someone you care about is, I need you to know that solid ground exists on the other side of this. Let me be honest about something first. When people talk about divorce, they focus on the heartbreak. And yes, that part nearly destroyed me. But what nobody prepared me for was the financial terror. Not just losing half the money, but losing the person who handled most of it. My husband, Robert, took care of our investments and our taxes and our insurance. I worked full-time as a high school counselor, but I'd let him manage the money side of our lives. That was the arrangement. And then suddenly, he was gone, and I was staring at financial statements I barely understood. The first thing I did, and this is step one, was I made myself sit down and look at the actual numbers. Not what I hoped they were, not what they should have been, what they actually were right now. I had 170,000 in retirement accounts. I had a 12-year-old Honda with 130,000 miles on it. I had my salary, which thank God I still had my job, and I had 7 years until I turned 65, which is when I'd always imagined retiring. 7 years. That's 84 months. When I wrote it down like that, something in me steadied. 84 months is actually a lot of time if you don't waste it being frozen. Step two was I found a financial advisor, a woman named Susan that my friend from church recommended. I almost didn't go because I was embarrassed. Here I was, 58 years old, and I didn't know how much I was spending on groceries every month. But Susan was kind. She didn't make me feel stupid. She just said, "Margaret, you're not starting from nothing. You have income and you have time and you have 170 already saved. Let's build something realistic from here." We spent our first meeting going through every single expense. Turns out, when someone else pays the bills for 30 years, you don't always know what things actually cost. My mortgage was $1,900 a month, property taxes another $300, home insurance $140, car insurance $90, utilities ran about $280. I was spending almost $500 on groceries because I didn't know how to shop efficiently. Robert always did the Costco runs. Gas was $150, phone bill $80, internet $60. And then there were all these little subscriptions, streaming things, a meal kit service I'd forgotten to cancel, a gym membership I hadn't used in 2 years. When Susan added everything up, I was spending almost $4,800 a month. My take-home after taxes and insurance was $5,200. That meant I was saving $400 a month. In 7 years, that would give me maybe 35,000 more, assuming nothing went wrong, which meant I'd have about 200,000 total when I turned 65. Susan looked at me very gently and said, "That's not going to be enough. Not if you want to stop working and live another 25 or 30 years. You'd run out of money by 75, maybe earlier if you have any health problems. I started crying right there in her office. I couldn't help it. Susan handed me a tissue and said, "We're going to figure this out, but you have to be willing to make some changes, big ones." Step 3 was cutting my expenses. And I'm not talking about skipping lattes. I mean completely restructuring my life. The house was the biggest problem. 4 bedrooms, split level in a nice neighborhood. The house where I raised my 2 daughters. But I didn't need 4 bedrooms anymore. My daughters were grown. Megan was 29 with her own apartment. Sarah was 26 and married. And I definitely didn't need a $1,900 mortgage, plus maintenance, plus yard work I had to pay someone to do because I'd never learned. So I sold it. This was step 4, and it broke my heart. I kept thinking about Sarah's wedding photos in the backyard, about Megan's room that still had her high school swim team ribbons on the wall, about 30 years of memories in every corner. My daughters were upset. Sarah actually said, "Mom, you can't sell our childhood home." I told her I wasn't selling her childhood. I was selling a house I couldn't afford anymore, so I wouldn't have to work until I was 75. I sold the house in April, got $380 for it, paid off the mortgage of $140. That left me $240 in cash. I could have bought a smaller house, but Susan suggested something I hadn't considered. She said, "Rent for a year. Give yourself time to figure out what you actually need. Don't make another huge decision while you're still adjusting to everything." So I did. I found a 2-bedroom apartment closer to the school where I work, $1,200 a month including water and trash. I kept my bedroom furniture and my kitchen table and my favorite reading chair. I sold or gave away almost everything else. It was painful. Every lamp and picture frame had a memory attached, but I couldn't take 30 years of stuff into a 2-bedroom apartment. Step 5 was putting that $240 from the house into a money market account. Susan said, "Listen, you're going through trauma right now. Your brain is not in a place to make complicated investment decisions. We'll park this money somewhere safe for 6 months while you adjust. Then we'll create a real strategy." She was right. Those first few months, I could barely function. I'd be at work counseling a student about college applications, and suddenly I'd remember how Robert used to make coffee every morning. Or I'd go to the grocery store and stand in the pasta aisle crying because I didn't know which kind he always bought. My brain was not ready to be comparing mutual funds. Step 6 was about my income. I'd been a school counselor for 23 years. I loved my job, but I'd never pushed for advancement because Robert made good money, and I didn't feel pressure. After the divorce, I realized I couldn't be comfortable anymore. I needed every dollar I could get. So I applied for a department head position that opened up. More responsibility, more meetings, more stress, but $8,000 more a year. I got it. That's an extra $500 a month after taxes. Step 7 was I had to learn to manage a household by myself. And I don't just mean cooking, though that was part of it. I mean everything. Robert had always handled the car maintenance and the home repairs and the tax documents and the insurance renewals. I didn't even know when the furnace filter needed changing. I felt helpless and angry at myself for being helpless. So I made a list of everything I didn't know how to do. Change the oil, file taxes, unclog a drain, replace a light bulb in a fixture I couldn't reach. Then I started learning. YouTube became my teacher. I watched videos on basic home maintenance. I took my car to a place that teaches women basic car care. I hired a tax preparer for the first year, but I sat with her and asked questions so I'd understand it better next time. This probably sounds small, but it saved me hundreds of dollars every month. And more than that, it made me feel capable again, like I could take care of myself. Step 8 was about food, and I know that sounds trivial, but it wasn't. I was spending almost $500 on groceries, plus another $200 eating out, because I didn't know how to cook for one person. Every recipe I knew fed 4 to 6 people. I'd make a casserole and eat it for 8 days until I couldn't stand it anymore. Or I'd buy ingredients, and half of them would go bad before I used them. I started following some blogs about cooking for one. I learned to freeze portions. I started meal prepping on Sundays. Nothing fancy, chicken and vegetables, soup, chili. Things I could make once and eat all week without hating it. I got my food spending down to $300 a month total. That's $200 extra every month that could go toward my future. Step 9 was fixing my retirement contributions. Before the divorce, I was putting 7% into my 403B because that's what the school district matched. Susan said, "You're 58 and playing catch up. You need to max out your contributions. The limit for people over 50 is $30,000 a year." I increased my contribution to 20% of my salary. It hurt. My paychecks got noticeably smaller. But Susan showed me if I did this for 7 years with compound growth and the district match, I'd add close to $250,000 to my retirement account. That meant living on less now. It meant saying no to things. My daughters wanted to do a spa weekend for my birthday. I said I'd rather have dinner at home. Megan got annoyed. She said, "Mom, you never want to do anything fun anymore." I told her what would be really fun is not eating cat food when I'm 80. Step 10 was probably the hardest. I had to completely reimagine what my retirement would look like. Robert and I had plans. We were going to travel to Italy and Ireland. We were going to get a vacation condo in Florida. We were going to babysit our future grandkids while our daughters worked. We had it all mapped out. None of that was happening now. Robert remarried 8 months after our divorce. He moved to North Carolina with his new wife. My daughters were still speaking to me, but our relationships were strained. Nobody's retirement dreams include divorced and alone in a 2-bedroom apartment. But I had to stop mourning what I'd lost and start building what was actually possible. I sat down with a notebook and wrote what I truly needed to feel okay. Not what I thought I was supposed to want, what I actually needed. I needed enough money to cover my bills without panic. I needed to stay healthy so I wouldn't have crushing medical debt. I needed purpose because I knew I'd go crazy sitting home alone all day. I needed connection with my daughters, even if it looked different than I'd imagined. That was it. I didn't need Italy. I didn't need a condo in Florida. I needed security and purpose and family. Once I knew that, everything got clearer. I started volunteering at a women's shelter on Saturday mornings. I joined a book club at the library. I signed up for a watercolor class at the community center. I was building a life that was mine. Not the life I'd had with Robert, not the life I'd imagined we'd have in retirement, just my actual life right now. So here's where I am today. It's been 6 months since the divorce was final. I've saved another $3,200 from reducing my expenses. My 403B has grown by about $22,000 between my contributions, the district match, and market returns. I still have that $240 from the house sale sitting safely in the money market account. Susan says if everything continues like this, I'll have about $450,000 by the time I'm 65. She says that's enough. Not lavish, but enough. I won't pretend I'm happy about how things turned out. I didn't want my marriage to end. I didn't want to sell my home. I didn't want to start over at 58. But I'm okay. I sleep through the night now. I don't panic when I check my bank account. My daughters have stopped treating me like I'm fragile. Sarah told me last month she was proud of me. That helped more than she knows. The thing is, when half your security disappears, you find out what you're actually made of. When Robert and I had our full retirement savings and our house and our plans, I never questioned if that's what I really wanted. It was just what you do. But when it all fell apart, I had to decide what I'd fight to keep and what I'd let go. If you're going through this right now, whether it's divorce or widowhood or job loss or medical crisis or whatever has cut your retirement in half, please hear me. You're not too old to rebuild. 7 years is enough. 5 years is enough. Even 3 years can be enough if you're focused. But you cannot spend 6 months paralyzed by fear or shame or grief. You have to look at the real numbers, even when they're scary. You have to make a real plan, even when you don't know what you're doing. You have to cut what needs cutting and earn what needs earning and save what needs saving. And you have to let go of the retirement you thought you'd have and build one that fits your actual life now. That's not giving up. That's not settling. That's surviving. And surviving is more than enough.